My needle drops. Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for track reviews, where I review a track. It's the new Death Grips song, Birds. If you don't know Death Grips by now, they are an experimental hip-hop trio from the Sacramento area in California. They put out one of my favorite hip-hop albums in 2011 and two of my favorite hip-hop albums last year in 2012. They have a new full-length LP, which they say is going to be released on their own label, Third Worlds, in 2014, sort of in tandem or with support from Grima Records, which is kind of an interesting and funny music business connection, considering that the band completely exploded their last record deal by allowing their album to prematurely leak, and all their fans pretty much downloaded it. Plus, it has a penis on the cover. The latest little tidbit of excitement having to do with Death Grips is this new track of theirs, Birds. And this track brings up a lot of questions for me about where Death Grips is going to go from here, especially in the experimental hip-hop realm, where they have trailblazed a little bit to the point where they have just brought a lot of attention to themselves, to the genre, rappers and producers hopping on this bandwagon and just sort of trying things out for themselves, most notably Kanye West recently with his new full-length LP. We could have been somebody, except you had to tell somebody. Take it back to the first party, when you tried your first Molly.
I popped a Molly, and I'm sweating. Woo!
As excited as I was to try this track out, it felt a little bit like kind of Death Grips as usual, with some newer ideas and just some slight changes of pace. As one of the viewers of this show points out, Nick Palmer, there are some interesting samples going on in this track, one of which I'm pretty sure is Muttley, who is a cartoon character that you might be familiar with if you grew up watching Hanna-Barbera's Laugh Olympics. There's just this weird, quiet laughing sound that's happening, going on very subtly in the background at like the 106 point. And of course, there are a league of other noises flowing throughout this track that are just as esoteric and obscure. That's the thing about Death Grips. They're so freaking esoteric, puzzling, and cryptic. And maybe the reason that they continue to sort of stay on the lips of so many people who are generally music fans and people who are in the music press is that we haven't really technically figured them out yet. It seems like they continually do things that are bad and horrible for their careers, and we're kind of stuck wondering what's their motive. To start with the track instrumentally, I do dig this song quite a bit. It has this blazing opener with these warped vocals screaming this refrain over and over and over, but it's so twisted and manipulated that it feels like it's synthesized, electronically generated. Then these murky synths and dissonant synths and electronic drums come just bashing in, just thickening the track up. And once this all kind of breaks away after a really quick like punk music style drum beat, it sort of slips into this very quiet, subtle, and kind of spacious spot where very chopped up and skipped out vocals sort of deliver some verses, and behind this is a very eerie melody that sounds like it's being played by a guitar of some sort, but that could have been sampled from somewhere else. The melody to me feels almost as if like it's got a little bit in common with a Korn single, Falling Away From Me, from their Life is Peachy album of all things. But anyway, at this moment, not only is the melody kind of pretty, it's captivating. I think just this instrumental alone, without MC Ride's vocals, are one of Death Grips' more interesting instrumentals. But with everything being so stripped back, I feel personally that they're trying to put some kind of emphasis on the lyrics here. There's definitely some symbolism going on here having to do with birds and power, but the more that I read through the lyrics, the more confused I am about them, what their overall message is, and if some of them are even right. There's one thing in the lyrics that makes me feel like there might be some typos, is when MC Ride says that he had a bluebird, but now it's dead, but written out it says that it is did. There are moments where I catch statements from this track, like about attitude or life being war, which are expressions that Death Grips has kind of made in the past. However, the statement that power is cheap and the mention of Jesus too, Jesus does not come up often in Death Grips music. I wonder why. But it's spots like this that have some people sort of guessing that this track in some way or another might be some kind of Kanye West diss. But honestly, that's not a statement that I feel personally willing to make, because just about every supposition that I've read people making about this song feels like kind of a stretch, because you can only really pull out a few lines or words from this thing and be like, ah, that's what this means. But what about the rest of it? Lyrically, the entirety of the song doesn't really bring me to any one conclusion, and being disjointed may be intentional, maybe it's just supposed to be addressing or bringing up a bunch of different topics. Still, I feel like that kind of loses some impact overall with this track. I feel like I have been tossed this puzzle that wasn't really meant to be figured out. However, Death Grips knows full well that everybody's going to grab onto this thing and be like, what's it mean? What's it mean? But if you've given this track a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Hate it? Why? And what do you think I should review next? Only the strong subscribe. All mistakes were intentional. Anthony Fantano, Death Grips, Birds Forever. And here's the track review theme song.
Hey buddy, did you hear the news? It's track reviews. Track reviews.